The silver chains bite into my wrists as the pack circles closer, their eyes reflecting torchlight like predators waiting for a kill. My alpha mate, the man destined by the moon goddess herself to cherish me, raises the ceremonial whip, and I realize with bone-deep horror that the scars on his previous mate's back weren't from battle. 2 hours ago, I'd stood in the preparation chamber, my heart racing with joy. After years of loving Caden Blackwood from afar, the moon goddess had finally answered my prayers. When he'd looked at me across the gathering hall last month and whispered, "Mine," I'd thought I'd found my forever. I was 23 and foolish. My best friend Maya had helped me into the traditional white dress, its back cut low to display the mate mark Caden would place on my shoulder. "You're shaking," she'd said, smiling. "It's just nerves." But it wasn't nerves. Some part of me, the wolf buried deep in my chest, had been whimpering since dawn. I'd ignored her. Now, standing in the center of the ceremonial clearing with the full moon blazing overhead, I wished I'd listened. The entire Silvercrest pack surrounded us in concentric circles, their faces solemn in the firelight. Caden stood before me in black ceremonial robes, so beautiful it hurt to look at him. His dark hair fell across his forehead, and those ice-blue eyes that had haunted my dreams held mine. "Sarah Whitmore," his voice rang out across the clearing. "Do you come willingly before the moon goddess to accept the bond she has woven between us?" "I do." My voice was steady, despite the trembling in my hands. The pack's chant began, ancient words in the old tongue. Elder Thomas stepped forward with the ceremonial blade, and I offered my palm without hesitation. The silver burned as it cut deep, and my blood dripped into the stone bowl between us. Caden did the same, his face showing no reaction to the pain. When Elder Thomas mixed our blood and marked my forehead with it, the bond snapped into place like a physical thing. I gasped as Caden's emotions flooded through me, possessiveness, satisfaction, and something else. Something dark that slithered beneath the surface like oil on water. "Speak the vow," Elder Thomas instructed. I knew the words by heart. Had practiced them 1,000 times. "I bind myself to you, Alpha, in this life and all lives to come. My wolf to yours, my blood to yours, my..." I hesitated. Just for a heartbeat. The next phrase was, "my will to yours," and something in my wolf screamed against it. The pause lasted maybe 2 seconds. No more. But Caden's eyes went cold. "You dare hesitate?" His voice was soft, deadly. "Before the pack? Before the moon goddess herself?" I didn't, I was just, confusion made my words stumble. "Caden, Alpha." The word cracked like a whip. "You will address me as Alpha." Around us, the pack shifted uneasily. Maya's face had gone white. Elder Thomas stepped forward, his hand raised. "Perhaps we should." Silence. Caden's Alpha command rolled over the clearing, forcing every wolf to their knees. I stayed standing only because he allowed it, though my legs trembled with the effort of resisting. "My mate has disrespected our most sacred tradition. She requires purification." Purification. The word echoed strangely in my ears. Someone brought the ceremonial whip. I'd seen it before, of course, a plated leather thing used symbolically in certain rituals. 3 gentle strikes to represent the trials of pack life that mates would face together. But when Caden took it in his hands, I saw his previous mate's back in my mind. Lydia, who'd died in a training accident 6 months ago. The closed casket funeral. The whispers that stopped when I entered a room. The scars on her back hadn't been from battle. No. The word ripped from my throat. "Caden, please. Present yourself." It wasn't a request. The Alpha command in his voice grabbed hold of my wolf, forcing her into submission. My body moved without my permission, turning, my hands still bound in silver. The chains bit deeper as someone, I couldn't see who, secured them to the posts on either side of me. The first strike tore through the delicate fabric of my ceremonial dress and split the skin beneath. I screamed, the sound raw and animal. "You will be silent," Caden commanded. And you will be grateful for this lesson. My wolf thrashed inside me, desperate to surface, to fight, to run. But an alpha's command was absolute. She couldn't break free. Neither could I. The second strike fell. Then the third. He didn't stop at 3. The pain became everything, a red wall that consumed thought, consumed air, consumed the world. I tried to scream but my throat closed, the alpha command strangling the sound before it could form. Blood ran hot down my back, soaking into the ruins of my dress. Through the haze, I saw faces. Maya crying silently, held back by her mate. Elder Thomas with his eyes closed as if in prayer. The pack watching in frozen horror, unable to intervene, unable to look away. This was their alpha. These were his rights. The whip fell again and again. I lost count. Lost time. Lost everything except the desperate wish for it to end, for darkness to take me, for the moon goddess to be merciful and let me die. Finally, darkness came. I woke to silk sheets and the scent of jasmine. For one confused moment, I thought it had been a nightmare. Then I tried to move and agony ripped through my back, stealing my breath. The alpha's chambers. I recognized the high ceiling, the massive windows overlooking the pack lands. I'd imagined waking here as Cadence made 100 times, but never like this. I tried to speak and nothing came out but a rasping wheeze. My throat felt torn from the inside, as if I'd been screaming for hours. Maybe I had been. After the alpha command released, maybe I'd screamed myself voiceless. Awake, I see. Caden emerged from the shadows by the window. In the pale morning light, he looked exactly as he always had, beautiful, powerful, every inch the alpha. He carried a glass of water, which he set on the bedside table. Drink. Healing will be easier if you stay hydrated. His voice was pleasant, conversational. As if he hadn't nearly killed me hours ago. I stared at him, unable to form words even if my throat had worked. He sat on the edge of the bed, and I flinched. He noticed and smiled, a small, satisfied curve of his lips. You'll learn, Sarah. All my mates do eventually. The bond requires proper discipline. Lydia understood by the end. Lydia, who died in a training accident. You're mine now, Caden continued, reaching out to brush my hair back. I couldn't pull away, my back screamed at the slightest movement. The moon goddess bound us for a reason. You'll see. Once you learn your place, we'll be happy. Happy. The word was a mockery. His hand trailed down my arm, almost gentle. The bond can't be broken, not without killing you. And exile means death anyway, no pack would take an alpha's rejected mate. So you'll stay. You'll learn. And you'll be grateful. He stood, adjusting his shirt cuffs with casual precision. Rest today. Tonight, we have the mating ceremony to complete. I expect you to perform your duties properly. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in the silk-sheeted prison. I lay there as the sun climbed higher, my wolf whimpering inside me. She'd tried to protect us and failed. The bond was a chain stronger than silver, tying me to a monster. There was no escape. No hope. No. A shadow crossed the window. I turned my head, ignoring the pain, and saw a figure at the tree lean beyond the compound. Another wolf, massive even in human form. Too far to make out features, but I saw his eyes, golden as honey, glowing in the morning light. He stood perfectly still, watching the alpha's chambers. Watching me. Then he was gone, melting into the forest like smoke. I closed my eyes, tears sliding hot down my cheeks. Maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe the pain had made me see things that weren't there. Or maybe, somewhere in the darkness that had become my life, something else was watching. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. The healing took 3 days. 3 days of lying on my stomach while pack healers applied salves that burned almost as badly as the whip itself. 3 days of choking down broth because my throat felt like I'd swallowed broken glass. 3 days of Caden visiting twice daily, sitting in the chair by the window, talking about pack business as if I were his secretary instead of his brutalized mate. He never apologized. Never even acknowledged what he'd done. On the 4th morning, I woke to find a small Omega setting fresh bandages on the side table. She was young, maybe 18, with mousy brown hair and eyes that wouldn't meet mine. Her name was Lily, and she'd been assigned as my personal servant. I tried to thank her, but only a rasping wheeze emerged. Lily's hand stilled on the water pitcher. Then, very slowly, she reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a small notebook and pencil. She placed them on the bed beside me without a word. "Thank you," I wrote, my hands shaking. She nodded once, still not looking at me directly. But as she gathered the soiled bandages, she whispered so softly I almost missed it, "The walls have ears. Write small. Burn it after." My heart stuttered. Over the next week, Lily became my lifeline to sanity. She came 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening, always silent, always efficient. But she also brought me things. A history of the Silvercrest pack, its pages worn soft with age. Old ledgers documenting pack laws and alpha succession rights. And once, folded small and hidden in a clean towel, a newspaper clipping from 6 months ago. Alpha's mate dies in training accident. The article was brief, clinical. Lydia Blackwood, age 28, had died from injuries sustained during a routine combat drill. The funeral had been private, family only. Alpha Caden Blackwood was devastated by the loss and requested privacy during this difficult time. But paperclipped to it was something else, a healer's report, marked confidential in red ink. I read it 3 times, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold the page. Lydia hadn't died in training. She died from internal bleeding caused by repeated trauma over a period of months. The healer, someone named Dr. Marissa Chen, had noted evidence of old fractures, systematic abuse, and finally, catastrophic organ failure following disciplinary measures. Dr. Chen had been fired 2 days after filing the report. The official cause of death had been changed. And Lydia had been buried in a closed casket so no one could see what Caden had done to her. I burned the papers in the fireplace, watching the evidence turn to ash. But the words were seared into my memory. This is what waits for me, I thought. Months or years of this, until my body gives out. That night, I dreamed of golden eyes watching from the forest. Caden completed the mating ceremony a week after the bonding ritual, in the privacy of his chambers with only Elder Thomas as witness. I won't describe it. Some memories are too dark to put into words, even written ones. I'll only say that when it was over, Caden seemed satisfied, and I felt hollowed out, like something essential had been carved from my chest. The fake bond between us pulsed stronger now, a constant awareness of him that made my skin crawl. I could feel his moods. His satisfaction when the pack obeyed, his anger when they didn't, his twisted pleasure when I flinched from his touch. My wolf had gone silent. She'd retreated so deep inside me I could barely feel her anymore. Maybe that's better, I thought. Maybe if she sleeps, this won't hurt as much. But I was wrong. 2 weeks after the ceremony, Lily brought me something different. A book, old and leather-bound, with no title on the cover. She set it on my breakfast tray and met my eyes for the first time since that first morning. "Page 47, she whispered. "Read it when you're alone." Then she was gone. I waited until after lunch, when Caden left for pack business and the guards changed shifts. Then I opened the book to page 47. It was a genealogy, a family tree of the Blackwood line, dating back 200 years. I traced the lines with my finger, following the succession of alphas, until I reached the current generation. Alpha Marcus Blackwood had 2 sons, Caden and Darius. Darius was the eldest by 2 years. Which meant, by pack law, he should have been alpha. I flipped through more pages, finding a section on alpha succession rights. The law was clear: the eldest son inherited the alpha position unless deemed unfit by the pack council. There was no record of Darius being challenged or removed. But there was a death certificate for Alpha Marcus, dated 3 years ago. Cause of death, heart attack. Beneath it, someone had written in faded pencil, wolfsbane poisoning. Council voted to suppress. K threatened families. My hands went cold. I kept reading, page after page of carefully documented violations. Caden hadn't just killed his father, he'd systematically dismantled every pack law that stood in his way. He'd executed dissenters under the guise of treason. He'd used dark magic to enhance his alpha command, making it impossible for pack members to resist him. And he'd done something else, something that made my blood run cold. He'd bound himself to mates using artificial bonds, dark spells that mimicked the moon goddess's blessing but gave him complete control. The real mate bond was sacred, unbreakable, equal. What I felt wasn't the moon goddess's gift. It was a chain Caden had forged himself. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced, turning over everything I'd learned. If the bond was artificial, could it be broken? And if Caden had stolen the alpha position, who was the rightful alpha? Darius. The golden-eyed wolf from the forest. I rose from bed carefully, my back still tender, and moved to the window. The full moon hung heavy in the sky, turning the pack lands silver. Beyond the compound, the forest was a wall of shadows. And standing at the tree-line, barely visible in the darkness, was a figure. Even from this distance, I knew those eyes would be golden. My wolf stirred for the first time in weeks. Not the terrified whimper she'd become, but something stronger. Something that said there, that one, he's ours. The fake bond with Caden flared in warning, sending pain lancing through my chest. I gasped, clutching the windowsill, as my body warred with itself. The artificial bond screamed that Caden was my mate, my alpha, my everything. But my wolf, the part of me that couldn't be fooled by dark magic, knew better. When I looked up again, the figure was gone. Lily came the next morning with a note tucked under the breakfast tray. Tonight. Midnight. East Garden. Come alone. I should have been afraid. Should have burned the note and stayed in my gilded cage. But something in me, some spark I'd thought Caden had beaten out, flared to life. I needed answers. And I needed to know if the golden-eyed wolf was real or just a desperate fantasy. The day crawled past. Caden came and went, discussing pack politics I barely heard. I nodded when expected, kept my eyes down, played the role of the broken mate he wanted me to be. But inside, I was planning. At 11:30, I told the guard outside my door that I needed the bathroom. He grunted permission. I was allowed that much freedom. Once inside, I opened the window. The drop to the ground was only about 10 feet, and the bushes below would cushion the fall. My back screamed as I climbed out, and I had to bite my lip to keep from crying out. But I made it down, landing hard in the shrubs. For a moment I just lay there, breathing, waiting for alarm bells to sound. Nothing. I picked myself up and ran, staying low, keeping to the shadows. The east garden was at the far edge of the compound, a place where Caden's first mate had grown herbs. No one went there anymore. I arrived 5 minutes early and hid behind a stone bench, my heart hammering. The artificial bond pulled tight, warning me that I was too far from Caden, that I was being disobedient, that I would be punished. I ignored it. At midnight exactly, he stepped from the shadows. He was massive, easily 6'4", with broad shoulders and a warrior's build. Dark hair, longer than Caden's, pulled back in a leather tie. Sharp features that marked him as a Blackwood, but harder, weathered by whatever he'd endured in exile. And those eyes. Golden, like honey in sunlight, like a wolf's eyes in the darkness. My wolf surged forward with such force I staggered. "Mate," she howled. "Mate." The artificial bond reacted instantly, sending agony through every nerve. I fell to my knees, unable to breathe, caught between two impossible truths. He was beside me in an instant, his hands hovering over me but not touching. "Easy," he murmured, his voice deep and rough. "The false bond will fight the real one. You have to breathe through it." I couldn't speak, my throat still hadn't healed, but I managed to look up at him. Up close, I could see the scars. Claw marks across his jaw. A thick rope of scar tissue around his neck, like someone had tried to strangle him with silver. This was a man who'd survived things that should have killed him. "My name is Darius Blackwood," he said quietly. "And I'm here to offer you a choice." I pulled out the small notebook I'd tucked in my pocket and wrote, "You're his brother." I was. Before he murdered our father and took everything that should have been mine. No bitterness in his voice, just cold fact. Before he twisted the pack bonds with dark magic and made himself a tyrant. Why now? Why me? Darius's jaw tightened. Because there's a prophecy. An old one, passed down through the true alphas. When the tyrant binds the silent wolf, her howl will herald his downfall. Caden knows it. That's why he targeted your voice, to keep you from fulfilling it. I stared at him. I'm the prophecy. You're the catalyst. The one who can break his hold on the pack. He met my eyes, and the intensity there stole my breath. The bond you feel with Caden isn't real. He used blood magic to create it, to control you. But the moon goddess marked you for me before either of us was born. You're my true mate, Sarah. And together, we can take him down. My wolf sang with recognition, with rightness, with a joy I hadn't felt since the night of the ceremony. But the artificial bond burned, wrapping around my heart like barbed wire. How do I know you're telling the truth? You don't. His honesty surprised me. I'm an exile. In the pack's eyes, I'm a traitor who tried to kill my brother and steal his position. That's the story Caden told, and most of them believe it. He paused. But your wolf knows. Close your eyes and listen to her. Really listen. I did. Let myself sink past the artificial bond, past the pain and fear, down to where my wolf waited. She showed me truth. A bond that had always been there, golden and unbreakable, connecting me to this scarred warrior in front of me. And overlaid on top of it, choking it, was Caden's dark magic, a parasitic thing that mimicked love but was really just control. When I opened my eyes, tears were streaming down my face. Darius's expression softened. I know this is overwhelming. I'm not asking you to decide tonight. I'm just asking you to consider the possibility that you deserve better than what he's given you. He'll kill me if he finds out I met with you. I know. That's why I've been watching from a distance, waiting for the right moment. He pulled something from his pocket, a small vial of dark liquid. This is a suppressant. It'll mask the true mate bond and dull the artificial one, make it bearable. Take a few drops every morning. It'll buy us time. I took the vial, my hands shaking. There's something else. Darius hesitated. The pack isn't as loyal to Caden as he thinks. There's a resistance, wolves who remember the old laws, who know what he did. They're waiting for a sign, for someone to stand against him. If you're willing, I can connect you with them. Why would they follow me? I'm nobody. You're his mate. That gives you access, authority, visibility. And more than that, he touched my hand, just the lightest brush of fingers, and even through the pain it sent warmth flooding through me. You're stronger than you think. Anyone who survived what you did and is still fighting? That's the kind of wolf who can lead a revolution. I wanted to believe him. Goddess, I wanted to believe him so badly it ached. But I'd been wrong about Caden. I'd loved him, trusted him, thought he was my destiny. And look where that had led. I need time, I wrote. I'll give you all the time I can. He stood, and immediately I felt the loss of his presence like a physical thing. I'll find ways to contact you. Small things. Safe things. No one will know unless you want them to. He started to turn away, then stopped. One more thing. The ceremony Caden performed, did he complete the mating? Heat flooded my face, but I nodded. Something dark and painful crossed Darius's expression. Then we need to be careful. If there's a child. My stomach dropped. I hadn't even considered it. Hadn't let myself think about the possibility that Caden's brutality might have consequences beyond scars and nightmares. How will I know? Wait 2 weeks. If your cycle doesn't come, we'll need to make plans. His voice was gentle, but I could see the fury barely contained beneath it. Not at me, at Caden, at the situation, at the unfairness of it all. If you're pregnant, it changes things. Makes you more valuable to him, harder to escape. But it doesn't make it impossible. If I am, would you still? I couldn't finish the question. But Darius understood. The child would be innocent. And you'd still be my mate, chosen by the moon goddess herself. Nothing changes that. The artificial bond flared, sharp and vicious, warning me away from him. But I forced myself to meet his eyes one more time. I'll think about everything you've said. That's all I ask. He melted back into the shadows as silently as he'd come. Be safe, Sarah. And remember, you're stronger than he wants you to believe. Then he was gone, and I was alone in the garden with 2 impossible truths warring inside me. I was bound to a monster who would kill me eventually. And my true mate was an exiled wolf who might be my only hope for survival, or the most dangerous lie I'd ever been told. I made it back to my room without being caught, crawled into bed still shaking, and lay there as dawn crept across the sky. 2 weeks later, my cycle didn't come. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. The healer confirmed what I already knew. 6 weeks, Dr. Chen said softly, her hands gentle on my stomach. She was the same healer who'd tried to document Lydia's abuse, now working in secret for the resistance. Healthy heartbeat. Strong. I wrote in my notebook, "Can you tell who the father is?" She hesitated, exchanging glances with Lily, who'd brought me here through a network of hidden passages beneath the compound. Not without proper testing. And even then. She trailed off, her meaning clear. Getting that kind of test meant involving equipment Caden controlled, records he could access. But my wolf knew. She'd been growing stronger every day, more present, more certain. And she whispered the same truth over and over, Darius. The baby is Darius's. Which was impossible. I'd never been with Darius. The only night I'd been with anyone was the ceremony. Caden's chambers. The memory that existed more as nightmare than reality. There's something else, Dr. Chen said carefully. I need to examine your throat. I nodded, tilting my head back while she ran her fingers along the damaged tissue. Her frown deepened. The scarring is extensive. But it's not from screaming. She met my eyes. Sarah, someone used magic on your vocal cords. Dark magic, meant to silence you permanently. Ice flooded my veins. When did you last remember speaking clearly? She asked. I thought back. The ceremony. The hesitation. Caden's fury. But before that, I'd been at the pre-ceremony gathering. Drinking wine. Dancing. And then, nothing. A blank space where memories should be, until I woke up in the preparation chamber with Maya helping me dress. I don't remember the night before the ceremony, I wrote, my hands shaking. Not all of it. Dr. Chen's expression went grim. Memory manipulation. Combined with the voice curse and the artificial bond. She sat back. Sarah, I think Caden has been planning this for much longer than 3 weeks. Whatever he's building toward, you were always meant to be the sacrifice. That night, Lily led me deeper into the passages than ever before. We traveled for what felt like miles, through tunnels carved from living rock, until we emerged in a cavern lit by phosphorescent moss. 20 wolves waited there. Some I recognized, pack members I'd seen in passing, always quiet, always watching. Others were strangers, their eyes hard with the look of those who'd suffered and survived. And standing at the center, talking quietly with an older woman I didn't know, was Darius. He saw me immediately, his golden eyes finding mine across the distance. The true mate bonds sang between us, golden and right, even as the artificial bond tried to choke it with pain. I'd been taking the suppressant he'd given me, and it helped, but nothing could completely mask the pull I felt toward him. Everyone, Darius said, his voice carrying easily in the enclosed space. This is Sarah Whitmore, Caden's unwilling mate. And our best chance at bringing him down. Murmurs rippled through the group. Not all welcoming. She's bonded to him, a scarred male said. How do we know this isn't a trap? The bond is artificial, Darius replied calmly. Created through blood magic to control her. Dr. Chen has confirmed it. Even so, a woman with silver-shot hair spoke up. She's carrying his child. That gives him leverage. The child may not be his. Darius's voice was steady, but I saw the tension in his shoulders. Which is precisely why we need to move quickly. He gestured for me to come forward, and I did, feeling every eye track my movement. When I reached his side, he placed a hand on my shoulder, just a light touch, but the true bond flared warm and welcoming. The older woman he'd been speaking with stepped forward. She had the look of a witch about her, wild gray hair, eyes that seemed to see through skin to bone, and an aura of power that made my wolf uneasy. I am Morgana, she said. And I have been tracking Caden Blackwood's dark magic for 3 years. She fixed me with that unsettling gaze. You are the key to everything, child. The prophecy, the power he seeks, the future of this pack. But you already suspected that, didn't you? I pulled out my notebook. What does he want? Ultimate power. What else? Morgana's smile was bitter. The blood moon rises in 3 weeks. On that night, the veil between worlds grows thin. Caden plans to perform a ritual, one that requires a sacrifice of immense power. A mate bound by false magic, carrying a child of alpha blood. Your death will fuel a spell that makes him invincible. No alpha command will be able to touch him. No challenge can defeat him. He'll be unstoppable. The cavern went silent. How do we stop him? That's the question, isn't it? Morgana moved closer, studying me like I was a puzzle to be solved. The spell that silenced you is tied to the false bond. If I restore your voice now, the backlash will kill you. But... She paused. If I remove your ability to shift, the magic could be redirected. You'd be human, or as close as a wolf can be. But you'd have your voice back. No. Darius's voice was sharp. Sarah, don't even consider it. Your wolf is part of who you are. Without her. I held up a hand, stopping him. Then I wrote, is there another way? Morgana nodded slowly. Possibly. But it's dangerous and uncertain. You'd have to wait until the blood moon, when the veil is thinnest. Break the false bond first, then reclaim your voice as the magic unravels. But if anything goes wrong, if Caden completes even part of the ritual, you and the child will die. I'll wait, I wrote. I won't give up my wolf. Something fierce and proud flashed in Darius's eyes. Around the cavern, I saw respect dawning on faces that had been skeptical moments before. Then we train, Darius said. All of us. 3 weeks to prepare for a fight we might not survive. But if we do. If we can break Caden's hold on this pack, we take back everything he stole. The resistance erupted in agreement, voices rising in determination. And for the first time since the ceremony that had destroyed my life, I felt something like hope. The training was brutal. Every night, while Caden believed me sleeping in his chambers, I'd slip through the passages to the cavern. Darius taught me to fight without words, to communicate through movement, to anticipate attacks, to turn silence into a weapon rather than a weakness. He was patient but relentless, pushing me harder each session. My back still ached from the whipping, but the pain became familiar, almost motivating. Every bruise I earned in training was one I'd chosen, not one inflicted by a monster who called himself my mate. And every session, the connection between Darius and me grew stronger. We couldn't touch much, the false bond made sure of that, sending agony through me whenever we got too close. But we learned to work around it. Fighting side by side. Moving in tandem. Building trust through action when words weren't available. During the days, I played my role. Caden's obedient mate, silent and broken. I attended pack meetings at his side, eyes downcast, never speaking. But I watched. Listened. Memorized everything. I learned which pack members were truly loyal to him, fewer than he thought, and which were simply too afraid to resist. I noted his routines, his paranoia, the way he checked his drink for poison and kept guards stationed even in his private chambers. And I fed it all to the resistance. Dr. Chen taught me sign language, giving me a way to communicate that Caden wouldn't understand even if he saw it. Lily helped me learn to read written spells, basic protections and wards that I could use without speaking them aloud. Slowly, carefully, we built an arsenal. But Caden was building something too. I found the ritual chamber by accident, following him one night when he thought I was asleep. Deep beneath the compound, past wards that burned my skin to pass through, was a room carved with symbols that made my wolf whimper in fear. An altar. Chains. Symbols drawn in blood. And a calendar, marked clearly, the blood moon. 3 weeks. 2 weeks. The dates counting down to my death. It happened at the pack gathering, 2 weeks before the blood moon. Caden had insisted I attend, dressed in a gown that hid my slowly rounding stomach but displayed his mark on my shoulder. I sat beside him on the dais while the pack celebrated something. I'd stopped paying attention to his manufactured holidays. I was watching the crowd, noting which members of the resistance were present, when I felt eyes on me. Not Caden's possessive gaze, which I'd grown used to. Something else. Something predatory. Garrett Kane. One of Caden's inner circle, a wolf known for his cruelty and his absolute loyalty to the false alpha. He was staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Then he moved. It happened so fast. One moment he was across the hall, the next he was lunging toward the dais, claws extended, aiming straight for my stomach. "The child is corruption," he roared. "Tainted blood. It must die." I threw myself sideways, but I was too slow, too pregnant, too human without my voice to command my wolf to surface. Then Darius was there. He came from nowhere, a blur of motion and fury, intercepting Garrett mid-lunge. They hit the ground in a tangle of limbs and snapping jaws, and the hall erupted in chaos. Darius Blackwood. Caden's alpha command rolled over the crowd, freezing everyone in place. Everyone except Darius, who'd thrown off Caden's magic years ago. He had Garrett pinned, claws at his throat. "Brother," Caden said, his voice dangerously soft. "How interesting to see you." And defending my mate, no less. Darius stood slowly, releasing Garrett but not taking his eyes off Caden. "Your mate was attacked. I protected her. That's what real alphas do." The insult hung in the air like smoke. Caden's smile was a razor. "Is that a challenge? If you want it to be." "No." I tried to speak, but only a rasping wheeze came out. I grabbed Darius's arm, shaking my head frantically. But Caden had already scented blood in the water. A formal challenge then. Death match, as the old laws require. 3 days from now, at dawn. He looked at me, and something dark and knowing glinted in his eyes. "If you win, brother, you can have my mate. Such as she is." He knew. Somehow, he knew about us. About the true bond, the resistance, all of it. This was his trap. That night, I found Darius on the training room floor, methodically sharpening silver blades. The kind meant to kill wolves permanently. He looked up when I entered, and the exhaustion on his face nearly broke me. This close, I could see the toll exile had taken. The scars weren't just physical. He'd been fighting alone for 3 years, surviving in the wilderness, waiting for a chance that might never come. And now he was going to throw it all away to save me. "You can't do this," I wrote. "He's stronger. The dark magic." "I know." Darius set down the blade. "I've known from the beginning this might be how it ends. But if my death means you and the baby have a chance." I grabbed the notebook, writing so hard the pencil nearly tore through. "I won't let you die for me. It's not just for you." He stood, and despite the pain, I moved closer to him. "It's for the pack. For everyone he's hurt. For my father. For Lydia. For all the wolves who deserve better than a tyrant. There has to be another way. If there is, we have 3 days to find it." But we both knew the truth. In a straight fight, Caden would destroy him. Morgana appeared that night like a ghost, materializing in my chambers while I lay awake, one hand on my stomach, feeling the baby flutter and kick. "You need to know something," she said without preamble. "About the child." I sat up, heart racing. "I've been tracking the magical signatures around you. The false bond, the voice curse, the memory spell." She moved closer, her expression grave. "Sarah, the child you carry is not Caden's." The room tilted. "The night before the ceremony, you were with Darius. The true mate bond recognized itself, and nature took its course. But Caden discovered you afterward. He used dark magic to erase your memory, to fake a ceremonial first night, to make you believe the child was his." She paused. "The baby carries Darius's bloodline. The rightful alpha's blood. And that makes it the most powerful weapon against Caden's magic." "My voice," I wrote, hands shaking. "It's been getting stronger. Sometimes I can almost. Because your wolf is healing you. She knows the baby is your true mate's child, and she's preparing you to protect it." Morgana gripped my shoulders. "Listen to me. If you speak before the blood moon, the voice curse will activate and kill you. But on the blood moon, when the veil is thinnest and Caden tries to complete his ritual, your voice will be the weapon that destroys him. You just have to survive until then." "And Darius? The death match? He doesn't know about the baby." "If he did," she shook her head. "You have to tell him. Because if he understands what's at stake, he won't fight to lose. He'll fight to win. To survive. To be the father this child deserves and the alpha this pack needs." After she left, I sat in the darkness, my hand on my stomach where my daughter, I knew somehow it was a daughter, grew stronger every day. Darius's child. Our child. The result of a night I couldn't remember but that my wolf had held onto like a sacred truth. I had 3 days to find a way to save him. 3 days to convince a man who'd given up everything that he had something worth living for. 3 days before the blood moon ritual that would either free us all or destroy everything. I pulled out my notebook and began to write. Not just words this time, but a plan. A desperate, dangerous plan that relied on Morgana's magic, the Resistance's courage, and one silent wolf finding her voice at exactly the right moment. When dawn came, I was still writing. And for the first time since the ceremony that had broken me, I felt my wolf rise up strong and fierce. "Soon," she whispered. "Soon we howl." If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. The blood moon rose like a wound in the sky, painting the ceremonial grounds crimson. I stood among the pack, my heart a war drum in my chest, watching as Caden and Darius circled each other in the fighting ring. The entire pack had gathered, over 300 wolves, their eyes reflecting that eerie red light, their bodies tense with the amplified magic that came with the blood moon. Caden looked magnificent, terrible. The dark magic he'd woven into his bones over 3 years made him larger than life, his movements inhumanly fast, his alpha aura crushing. He wore ritual combat leather, marked with symbols that made my skin crawl. Darius looked like death already. 3 years of exile had left him leaner, scarred, weathered. But his golden eyes burned with something unbreakable as he met his brother's gaze. "Last chance to bow, brother," Caden said, his voice carrying easily across the silent crowd. "Submit, and I'll make your death quick. I'd rather die free than live on my knees." Darius's voice was steady. "Something you'll never understand." Caden's smile was a predator's. "So be it." Elder Thomas raised his staff. "By the old laws and the new, this challenge has been spoken and accepted. The fight ends in death or submission. The moon." "Stop." The word ripped from my throat like fire, like broken glass, like 3 weeks of silence finally shattering. My voice, raw and powerful and completely, impossibly mine, rolled across the gathering with a force that froze everyone in place. Including Caden. His head snapped toward me, shock and fury warring on his face. "You can't speak. The spell. Your spell is broken." The words came easier now, my voice growing stronger with each syllable. The false bond inside me writhed and screamed, but I pushed past it. Past the pain. Past the fear. And I invoke the oldest law of all. The law that predates alphas and packs. The law of the Moon Mother herself. I stepped into the ring, and the crowd parted like water. Morgana stood at the edge of the circle, her hands weaving symbols in the air, feeding me power. Dr. Chen, Lily, and 20 other resistance members ringed the fighting ground, their combined magic creating a barrier that even Caden's dark power couldn't break. "What is she doing?" someone whispered. "She has no right." "She has every right." Morgana's voice cut through the murmurs. "Tell them, Sarah. Tell them who you really are." I looked at Darius first. His expression was torn between hope and fear, his body coiled to protect me even though he didn't understand what was happening. Then I looked at Caden, and I smiled. "You wanted to silence me because of a prophecy. The silent wolf will howl his downfall. But you never understood what it really meant." I pulled the leather cord from around my neck, the one thing I'd managed to keep from my life before Caden. A small pendant, carved with symbols I'd thought were just decoration. My grandmother had given it to me before she died, telling me to never take it off. The pendant blazed silver in the blood moon's light. My grandmother was Elena Whitmore, daughter of Ariana Moon's daughter, daughter of Selene herself. The words came from somewhere deep, somewhere ancient, as if they'd been waiting my whole life to be spoken. I am descended from the moon goddess's first daughter. I am moon-blessed. And I claim authority over this challenge by blood more ancient than any alpha line. The pack erupted in chaos. Shouts of disbelief. Gasps of recognition from the elders who remembered the old stories. Caden's face went white, then red with rage. "You're lying. There's been no moon blessed in 200 years. Because your ancestors hunted them." Morgana stepped into the ring beside me. "Hunted them, killed them, buried the truth. But the bloodline survived in secret, passed down through daughters who knew to hide what they were." She looked at me with something like reverence. "Until now. I don't care what she claims to be." Caden's voice was shaking with fury. "She's mine. Bound by blood and magic. She can't. Your magic is a lie." I spoke in the old language now, words I shouldn't know but did, words that came from the very marrow of my bones. The symbols on my pendant flared brighter, and I felt my wolf rise up, not the cowering, broken thing she'd become, but something vast and powerful and ancient. The false bond between Caden and me began to unravel. He felt it. I saw the moment panic replaced rage in his eyes. "No. No. You can't break it. The spell is permanent. It requires the willing submission of the mate." My voice echoed with power now, with generations of moon-blessed women speaking through me. Which I never gave. You forced a bond that was never meant to be. But the Moon Mother sees all lies. And under her light, all truth is revealed. I raised my hands, still speaking the old language, and the blood moon's light focused like a beam directly onto the fighting ring. The magic Morgana and I had prepared over the past 3 days activated, turning that red light into a mirror that reflected not flesh but soul. The pack gasped as images appeared in the light above us. Memories. Truth. Caden poisoning his father, watching Marcus Blackwood writhe in agony while wolfsbane burned through his system. Caden framing Darius for the murder, using dark magic to plant false evidence. Caden's coronation, built on lies and threats and the systematic execution of anyone who questioned his right to rule. And then the mates. 7 of them over 3 years. Women bound by false magic, broken systematically, discarded when they were used up. Lydia was only the most recent. We watched her suffer. Watched her die. Watched Caden order the healer's report changed and the body buried before anyone could ask questions. Then came my own story. The night before the ceremony when Darius and I had met by chance at the spring, the sacred place where true mates recognized each other. I watched myself fall into his arms, watched us come together under the stars with a rightness that made my heart ache. Watched the true mate bond snap into place, golden and unbreakable. And then Caden finding us afterward. The rage on his face. The dark magic he'd used to erase my memories, to damage my vocal cords, to create a false bond that would let him control me. All because the prophecy said a silent wolf would destroy him, and I, descended from the Moon Mother herself, was the greatest threat he'd ever faced. Enough. Caden's voice was ragged. Enough. But the blood moon wasn't finished. It showed his plans. The ritual chamber. The altar prepared for my death. The spell that would have sacrificed me and my unborn child to give him unlimited power. When the visions finally faded, the silence was absolute. Then the pack began to shift. Not into wolves, but in formation. Moving away from Caden. Surrounding him. The resistance members I'd worked with, yes, but also wolves I'd thought were loyal to him. Wolves who'd been too afraid to act but who couldn't ignore the truth when it was laid bare under the Moon Mother's light. No. Caden backed toward the ring's edge, but there was nowhere to go. You can't do this. I'm your alpha. You're bound to obey. Your alpha command was powered by dark magic and lies. Elder Thomas stepped forward, his aged face hard as stone. By the ancient laws, the real laws, not the twisted version you've enforced, you are stripped of your position. You are no longer alpha. You are no longer pack. I challenge you then. Caden spun toward Darius, desperate now. The death match stands. Kill me if you can, brother, but at least I'll die with honor. You have no honor. Darius's voice was quiet but carried across the grounds. And I won't give you a warrior's death. That's not my choice to make. He looked at me, and in his golden eyes I saw love, trust, and absolute faith. It's hers. Every eye turned to me. Moon blessed. True mate to the rightful alpha. Carrying the child who would unite the bloodlines. And something else. Something I'd felt growing stronger with each passing day but hadn't fully understood until this moment. I was alpha. Not because I'd fought for it or inherited it through male bloodlines. But because the Moon Mother herself had marked me as her daughter, her voice, her vessel of justice. Caden saw it too. I watched realization dawn on his face, followed by terror. Sarah, please. I can change. We can start over. The child is not yours. I let the power flow through me fully now, let my wolf rise to the surface for the first time since the ceremony that had tried to break her. She is Darius's daughter. A child of true mates, blessed by the Moon Mother. And she will never know your cruelty. My wolf emerged. The pack fell to their knees as I shifted, not into the gray wolf I'd been before Caden, but into something else entirely. My fur was white as moonlight, luminous in the blood moon's glow. I was larger than any female wolf should be, my eyes silver instead of gold, my presence radiating a power that made even the strongest wolves bare their throats in submission. Moon blessed. The first in 200 years. Caden tried to shift, tried to fight, but his dark magic was unraveling in the face of my power. I stalked toward him, and he stumbled backward, falling to his knees. "Please," he whispered. "Sarah, please. I could kill him. The pack would support it. Justice demanded it. But killing him would make me like him. And I'd promised myself I'd never let him turn me into a monster." I shifted back to human form, standing naked before the pack without shame. Darius was there immediately, wrapping his leather jacket around my shoulders, his presence solid and warm at my back. "Caden Blackwood," I said, my voice ringing clear. "For your crimes against the pack, against your father, against your mates, and against the laws of the Moon Mother herself, I strip you of your wolf." Horror dawned on his face. "No. You can't. That's a death sentence. It's mercy." I placed my hand on his chest, right over his heart where his wolf lived. "You wanted me silent and powerless. You wanted to take everything that made me who I am. Now you'll know how that feels." I spoke the old language again, words of unbinding and separation. Caden screamed as his wolf was torn from his soul, not killed, but locked away where he could never reach it again. The connection that made him pack, that gave him strength and healing and immortality, severed completely. When I stepped back, he collapsed to the ground, sobbing. Just a man now. Mortal. Aging. Powerless. "You are exiled," I said. "You will live as the humans do, voiceless in our world, broken and alone. And if you ever return to pack lands, the sentence will be death." 2 resistance members dragged him away, still sobbing, and the pack watched in silence until he disappeared into the darkness beyond the ceremonial grounds. Then someone howled. One voice, rising in triumph and relief. Others joined, until 300 wolves were singing to the blood moon, celebrating the end of a tyrant's reign. But I wasn't done. I turned to Darius, who was staring at me with awe and love and 1,000 questions. I took his hands, ignoring the way my legs shook, feeling the daughter in my belly kick as if she too celebrated this moment. "You took a death blow for me once," I said softly, so only he could hear. "In a vision Morgana showed me. A future where I didn't speak up, where I let this fight play out. You died to save me. I'd do it again." His voice was rough with emotion. "I know. But you don't have to." I placed his hand on my stomach. "Because we have a daughter to raise. A pack to lead. A world to change. And I need you alive for all of it." The true mate bond between us blazed golden and perfect, no longer choked by Caden's dark magic. I felt the moment it settled into place, complete and unbreakable. Felt Darius's love and wonder and fierce protectiveness flood through me like coming home. "You're moon blessed," he whispered. "And I'm just the rightful alpha. My true mate. The father of my child." I smiled. "That's more than enough." He kissed me then, in front of the entire pack, and the cheers that erupted shook the ground. The new ceremony happened 3 days later, under a gentler moon. This time, there were no chains. No whips. No commands or coercion or fear. I stood in the ceremonial clearing wearing white again, but this time the dress was my choice. Maya stood beside me as my witness, tears streaming down her face. Dr. Chen and Lily and Morgana watched from the front row, along with Elder Thomas and the other pack elders who'd survived Caden's purge. And Darius waited for me in the center of the ring, wearing traditional alpha regalia, his golden eyes bright with joy. The ceremony was simple. We spoke the true vows, the ones about partnership and choice and love freely given. We mixed our blood not through silver cuts but through willing sacrifice. And when Elder Thomas asked if I came willingly, my "I do" rang clear and strong across the gathering. The pack's chant rose around us, ancient and beautiful. And when Darius marked me, his true mate mark replacing the one Caden had carved, the bond between us blazed so bright I gasped. "I love you," he whispered against my neck. "My mate. My alpha. My miracle." "I love you too," I said. "My partner. My equal. My home." Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. The moment Morgana had told me about, when everything would change. I stepped forward, feeling the power of my bloodline rise up, and I threw my head back and howled. It wasn't a normal wolf's howl. It was something older, something that carried the Moon Mother's magic in every note. It rang out across the pack lands, across the territories, across the entire continent where wolves lived and breathed and suffered. And everywhere, in packs ruled by tyrants, in prisons where wolves were kept silent, in homes where mates were abused and broken, the magic in my howl found them. Found the silent ones. The voiceless. The broken. And gave them back their voices. I felt it happen. Felt dozens, hundreds, thousands of wolves suddenly able to speak again, able to fight back, able to say no with power that couldn't be denied. Mates breaking free of false bonds. Wolves challenging corrupt alphas. A revolution sparked by a single howl. When I finally fell silent, Darius caught me, holding me close as I shook with the enormity of what I'd just done. "The world just changed," Morgana said softly, wonder in her voice. "Every pack will know what happened here. Every silenced wolf will know they're not alone. Every tyrant will know their time is ending." I looked up at Darius, at the pack gathered around us, at the moon shining silver overhead. My hand rested on my stomach, where our daughter, the next generation of Moon Blessed, grew stronger every day. "Good," I said. "Let them come. Let them challenge. Let them try to take back the power they stole." I smiled, fierce and free and finally whole. "We'll be ready." The pack howled their agreement, voices raised in joy and defiance and hope. And somewhere in the darkness beyond our lands, I knew other packs were beginning to howl too. A new era had begun. One where voices couldn't be silenced. Where mates were chosen, not commanded. Where the Moon Mother's true justice would reign. And I would lead it, not alone, but with my true mate at my side, my daughter in my belly, and an army of formerly voiceless wolves at my back. The ceremony of blood had ended. The ceremony of healing had just begun. 3 months later. I stood on the Alpha's platform. Rebuilt, redesigned, no longer a throne but a place where all pack members could speak and be heard, with my hand on my swollen belly and Darius beside me. Letters had been arriving for weeks. From packs across the continent. Some seeking asylum from corrupt alphas. Others asking for guidance on how to challenge their own tyrants. Still others simply thanking me for giving them back their voices. The revolution was spreading, exactly as Morgana had predicted. And while not every battle was won, not every tyrant defeated, the tide had turned. Wolves were fighting back. And they were winning. "Ready?" Darius asked softly, squeezing my hand. I looked out at our pack, 300 strong and growing every day as refugees arrived. At Maya and her mate, expecting their own child. At Dr. Chen, now head healer. At Lily, training to be a pack counselor. At Morgana, who decided to stay and teach the next generation about the old magic. At Elder Thomas, who'd presented me with my grandmother's journals last week, documents proving my bloodline, stories about the moon-blessed women who'd come before me, prophecies about the daughter I would bear. At all the faces, old and new, looking to me not with fear but with hope. "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." I raised my voice, letting it carry across the gathering without shouting, without force, simply with the power of truth. "We are Silvercrest Pack. We are the first, but we won't be the last. We are the place where silenced wolves find their voices, where broken wolves heal, where justice isn't just a word but a promise we keep every single day. I placed both hands on my belly, feeling my daughter kick strong and fierce. And we are just beginning. The pack howled their agreement, and this time when I joined them, my voice carried magic that rippled out like waves, touching every wolf who needed to hear it. You are not alone. You are not voiceless. You are not broken. Rise. Speak. Howl. The Moon Mother hears you. And so do I. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Epilogue. 5 years later. The ceremony grounds looked different in the spring sunlight, softer, filled with wildflowers instead of torches, packed with wolves who wore smiles instead of fear. I watched from the platform as my daughter raced through the crowd, her white blonde hair flying behind her like a banner. At 5 years old, Luna was already showing signs of the power she'd inherited, eyes that shifted from silver to gold depending on her mood, an ability to sense emotions that made lying to her impossible, and a howl that could be heard 3 territories over. She was also utterly fearless, which gave me daily heart attacks. Mama. Mama, look. She skidded to a stop in front of me, holding up a frog she'd apparently caught near the stream. His name is Herbert and he's my best friend. Herbert is very handsome, I said solemnly, crouching down to her level despite the weight of the twins making it awkward. But maybe he'd like to go back to his family now? Luna considered this, her little face serious. Then she kissed the frog on the head and set him gently in the grass. Bye, Herbert. Come visit soon. The frog hopped away with what I could have sworn was enthusiasm. She's going to be a handful, Darius said, coming up behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist. His hands settled on my belly, where our twin sons were currently engaged in what felt like a wrestling match. 3 more months and we'll have 3 of them. We can handle it. I leaned back against him, breathing in his scent, pine and earth and home. We've handled worse. He laughed, the sound rich and warm. In 5 years, the lines of strain had eased from his face. He'd filled out, healed, become the alpha he was always meant to be, strong but gentle, fierce but fair. Leading alongside me instead of over me. True. Although I'm not sure Caden was as terrifying as a 5-year-old who can command frogs. I smiled, watching Luna chase after a butterfly. We rarely spoke about Caden anymore. The last we'd heard, he was living in a human city 3 states away, working in a factory, aging and alone just as I'd sentenced him to be. Sometimes I wondered if he thought about us. About the power he'd lost and the life he could have had if he'd chosen differently. Mostly, I just felt sorry for him. Attention, everyone. Maya's voice carried across the grounds. She stood on the ceremonial platform, looking radiant in her pack counselor robes, her 3-year-old son on her hip. We're about to begin. The crowd settled as the ceremony started, not a mating ceremony this time, but something new. Something we'd created together as a pack. The voice ceremony. 12 wolves stood in the center of the circle, ranging in age from 16 to 60. Some had come from other packs, drawn by stories of Silvercrest. Others had been here all along, finally finding the courage to speak up after years of silence. Elder Thomas, frilier now but still sharp as ever, stepped forward with a silver bowl filled with moon water. Today, these wolves reclaim what was taken from them. Not just their voices, but their power, their choice, their right to be heard. One by one, they drank from the bowl and spoke their truth. A woman who'd been abused by her first mate for 10 years, I am worthy of love. A young man whose alpha had forbidden him from pursuing his art, my gifts matter. A teenager who'd been told she was too weak to be a warrior, I am strong. By the end, there wasn't a dry eye in the gathering. Even Darius was wiping at his face, pretending it was allergies. Luna climbed into my lap, careful of the twins, and whispered, "Why is everyone crying, Mama?" "Because sometimes joy is so big it has to come out as tears," I told her, kissing the top of her head. Oh. She thought about this. Like when I'm so happy I have to howl really loud? Exactly like that. After the ceremony, the gathering turned into a celebration. Tables appeared laden with food. Musicians struck up cheerful songs. Pups ran wild while adults laughed and danced and enjoyed the first truly warm day of spring. I found myself near the memorial wall, a new addition to the grounds, carved with names of wolves who hadn't survived their tyrants. Lydia's name was there, along with Caden's other mates. My grandmother's name. Darius's father. I wish they could see this, I said softly as Darius joined me. I think they can. He took my hand, threading our fingers together. Every voice raised is a testament to them. Every wolf who finds freedom is their legacy. A commotion near the training grounds caught our attention. Luna had apparently organized the other pups into some kind of army and was leading them in an assault on the obstacle course, complete with battle cries and strategic planning. She's definitely yours, I said to Darius. She's definitely yours, he countered. I never organized military campaigns at 5. Fair point. We watched our daughter command her troops with the confidence of someone who'd never been told to be quiet, to submit, to make herself small. Who'd grown up watching her parents lead together, listening to voices being valued, learning that power came not from dominance but from lifting others up. Do you ever miss it? Darius asked quietly. The before? When life was simpler? I thought about the girl I'd been 5 years ago. Silent, broken, believing she deserved the abuse because the moon goddess had chosen her mate. So desperate for love she'd mistaken cruelty for passion. Not even for a second, I said. Movement at the edge of the grounds caught my eye. A lone wolf, watching from the tree line. Female, young, with scars on her face and fear in her eyes. A refugee from somewhere else, drawn by stories of a white wolf who gave voices back to the silenced. I met her gaze across the distance and nodded once. You're safe here. She hesitated, then took a single step forward. Then another. By the time the sun set, she'd be part of the pack. We'd hear her story, tend her wounds, and help her find her voice again. Just like we'd done for hundreds of others over the past 5 years. Alpha Sarah. One of the border patrol guards jogged up, slightly out of breath. We've got incoming. 3 families from the Northern Territories, requesting asylum. Their Alpha was. He grimaced. Following Caden's old playbook. Was? Darius asked sharply. Was. Apparently, one of the mates finally snapped during last night's blood moon. Challenged him in front of the whole pack and stripped him of his position. The guard's grin was fierce. They're calling her the Northern Howl. Said she was inspired by stories of what happened here. Pride swelled in my chest, warm and bright. Get them settled. Full welcome protocols. And send the Northern Howl my regards. Tell her we'd be honored to host her when she's ready. As the guard hurried off, I felt the twins kick in tandem, as if celebrating too. Luna returned from her military campaign, covered in mud and grinning from ear to ear. Maya waved from across the grounds, already organizing accommodations for the new arrivals. This was my life now. Our life. Chaotic and exhausting and absolutely perfect. You know, Darius said, pulling me close despite my enormous belly, when I first saw you standing in that clearing 5 years ago, chained and silent, I thought I was watching someone die. You kind of were, I said. The girl I was then didn't survive. No. She became something so much more. He kissed my temple, my cheek, finally my lips. She became the Moon Mother's justice. The voice of the voiceless. The Alpha who changed everything. We changed everything, I corrected. Together. Together, he agreed. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, I felt the pull to shift. Not from duty or necessity, but simply from joy. From the pure pleasure of being able to transform when I chose, how I chose, because I wanted to. My white wolf emerged, and Luna immediately shifted too, her fur the same luminous white as mine, marking her as moon-blessed. She yipped excitedly and bounded around me in circles while pack members paused to watch, smiling. Darius shifted last, his dark gray wolf touching his nose to mine in greeting. Then we ran, the three of us, racing toward the forest with the setting sun at our backs and the whole pack's love surrounding us like a blessing. Luna's howl rose first, young and wild and utterly free. Darius joined her, his voice strong and sure. And finally, I added mine, letting the Moon Mother's magic flow through me, carrying messages of hope and healing to every corner of the continent where wolves might hear it. You are loved. You are valued. You are enough. Speak. Rise. Howl. We are listening. Somewhere far away, I felt other voices answer. The northern howl. The eastern whisper. The southern flame. The western storm. Wolves I'd never met but who carried the same message, leading their own packs into a new era. The revolution I'd started with a single howl 5 years ago had become a symphony. And it was only growing louder. We ran until the moon rose full and silver overhead, until Luna was tired enough to ride on her father's back, until the twins settled peacefully in my belly. Then we returned to the pack grounds, to the home we'd built from ashes and hope. That night, tucked into bed with Darius's arm around me and Luna curled between us, I felt the absolute rightness of it all. The scars on my back had faded to silver lines, no longer symbols of shame but reminders of how far I'd come. My voice was strong. My wolf was free. My family was safe. And somewhere out there, wolves who'd once been silent were learning to howl. Love you, Mama, Luna murmured sleepily. Love you, Papa. Love you, baby girl, we said in unison. Love you, brothers, she added, patting my belly. Even though you kick too much. I smiled in the darkness, feeling Darius's quiet laugh rumble against my back. In 3 months, our family would grow. In 3 years, Luna would begin formal alpha training. In 30 years, she might lead this pack herself, carrying forward everything we taught her about justice and mercy and the sacred responsibility of power. But tonight, we were simply this, a family. A pack. A promise kept. The Moon Mother's light streamed through the window, touching my daughter's white blonde hair, and I could have sworn I heard a whisper on the wind, ancient and loving and proud. Well done, daughter. Well done. I closed my eyes and let sleep take me, knowing that whatever challenges tomorrow brought, we'd face them together. The silent wolf had found her howl. And the whole world was better for it. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and like this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to know the country in which you are in, listening to this story. Which country is that? Please comment below.